boys and girls. I'm Nana Rose. You might have noticed I have a bird on my head. That's because today's story is a pirate story, but the narrator of the story is the bird. So before we start the story, I wanted to make sure you knew a couple of things about pirates. First of all, do you know that the Jolly Roger is what the flag is called that has the two crossbones in the skull? Yeah, that's called the Jolly Roger with the two crossbones in the skull. Also, back in olden days, men and women used to wear wigs, and then they would powder the wigs. So you'll hear a reference to that in the story today. Old Maid is a card game. So when you hear about the game Old Maid, you'll know that that's a card game. Plunder means to steal, and a doubloon is a kind of a gold coin, okay? Mardi Gras is a celebration. It's usually the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday, what's called Fat Tuesday in the Christian tradition. And it's a time to celebrate because then during Lent, which is when Ash Wednesday begins through until Easter, the people didn't used to eat any butter or any grease fats like that. So that's why it was called Fat Tuesday, because they used up all the fat. They partied and celebrated because the next 40 days they were going to fast and they were going to not be as celebratory. So Mardi Gras was a great day to blow off some steam before being more quiet and calm and contemplative for the next 40 days. Also, in the old days, a cannon, when you shot off a cannon, you would put the gunpowder in, then you would put in the cannonball, and then you would have to tamp it down or push it all down towards the end of the cannon so that when you lit it, the cannonball would fly. And lastly, there's a reference to a stogie. A stogie is another word for a cigar. So those are some things. There's also references to parts of a ship, the aft, above and below. So there, you'll hear those. I think you'll figure those out. So this is called The Ballad of Bad Ben Bilge. The Ballad of Bad Ben Bilge. And as I mentioned, it's narrated by the Mynah Bird. The Ballad of Bad Ben Bilge, written and illustrated by Eric von Schmidt.
Listen, mates, and I'll tell you a tale of plunder and golden sea, of blood-red moons and gold doubloons, and the things that happened to me. Though the Devil's Delight is a right fine ship, as trim and as white as a gull, when she flies her flag, it's the inky black rag, with two crossbones and a skull. For the Devil's Delight is a pirate craft, yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum, bad men forward and worse ones aft, 15 men on a dead man's chest. Stem to stern, aloft and below, cutthroats and brigands wherever you go. I'm Timber-Toe Bob, and there's Tarry-Neck Willie, Dog-Face Henry and Brimstone Billy, Rotten Ranzo, Needle-Nose Nate, and Solomon Dagger, the ship's first mate. He cursed the crew and kicked the cat, but our captain was meaner and dumber than that, 5 times more growly than that. Now Bad Ben Bilge was our captain's name, and his wig was all smeary and slick. He won me one day in Quilliqua Bay, when I was no more than a chick. Born in a grog shop on St. Mincemeat's Isle, he was wicked and bad as could be. He'd sit in the shade and cheat at Old Maid, and that was the way he won me. So I bade farewell to Quilliqua Bay, yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum, as we hoisted sail and gathered way, 15 men on a dead man's chest. Wham, bam, boom! We'd roar like thunder, plunder whole navies and blow them under. We'd drink strong rum from a leaky spigot, and we'd maul each yawl and frisk each frigate. We sunk a dinghy and snitched a scow, but not much more. We didn't know how. So he taught me to curse and made me roll dice, and nothing he taught me was nice. Not a thing he taught me was nice. I prayed for the chance to do him in, for my heart was still honest and true. Then on the high sea my chance came to me, when a rich merchant ship hove in view. We rigged in disguise to capture this prize, to sink her and steal her doubloons. Ben popped on a bonnet with baubles on it, and Ranzo wore silk pantaloons. Then quickly I flew to warn her crew, yo-ho-ho in a bottle of rum, to tell them all what I've told you. 15 men on a dead man's chest. But each gentleman, bold and dainty made, drew out a cutlass with gleaming blade. Aye, mateys, to my sore surprise, they too were brigands in disguise. And they whacked me till my tail was raw, for the breaking of the pirate's law. Then shipped me back to the Devil's Delight, and they stowed me below all bound up tight, in chains, all bound up tight. Then we sailed to the east and sailed to the west, till Ben spied St. Mincemeat's shores. I'll be a spoil sport, and bash up their port, and loot all the gold from their stores. He came down to see me all bound in my chains, with a pot, just the right size for stew. Soon in it you'll go, my dear Timber-toe, for my victory feast will be you. I'll sack Quilliqua, ho-ho, ha-ha, yo-ho-ho, in a bottle of rum, tonight while they celebrate Mardi Gras. 15 men on a dead man's chest. For Mardi Gras is the time of year they dance and they prance and they guzzle beer. When the moon goes down, we'll sneak in the bay, load up our guns while the mandolins play. We'll have no trouble in scaling the wall, since all of the soldiers will be at the ball. The fat, the skinny, the tall, and the short, leaving no one to guard their nasty old fort. Leaving no one to guard the fort. I was filled with despair as Ben left me there, when I heard a soft pitter-pat. I heaved a great sigh as my friend crept close by. It was Ricketts, the stowaway rat. "I've stolen the key," he whispered to me. "Fly and warn them of Bad Ben's attack." And when I was freed, he wished me Godspeed. "Go quickly and never look back." But no one in town would pay me a heed. Yo-ho-ho in a bottle of rum, when I tried to warn of the dreadful deed. 15 men on a dead man's chest. For with my patch and my wooden knee, not one soul remembered me. But then a memory within me stirred, of 2 little girls and a mynah bird. My mother's nest by the house on the hill. Would the bird be there? Would he know me still? So through the crowd I dashed straight away, as Bad Ben Bilge crept into the bay. All the pirates crept into the bay. Ah! The moon went down as I reached the house, on a hill, the tooth of a shark. Then a voice from up high said, "My sister and I are too small to be up after dark." My name is Katie, and her name is Meg. She doesn't say much because she's shy. And our minor bird's name is Pompous McVeigh. We're so very glad you stopped by.
Do you see the two running toward each other? So that would be Timbertoe Bob's dad, Pompous McVeigh.
We sat right down and plotted a plan. Yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum. Rock! Then straight away to the fort we ran. 15 men on a dead man's chest. A 32-pounder was aimed at the bay. We loaded her up in the proper way. We poured in the powder and rolled in the ball. Ooh, tapping the wad was the hardest of all. Ah!